Hello, everyone. What really happened to Mike Hall from Rust Valley Restorers? In 2021, the world watched as this wild-haired legend sold off his entire car kingdom, over 500 classic vehicles, 4 decades of blood, sweat, and dreams, gone in a single day. Fans thought it was the end of Rust Valley forever. But then, against all odds, Mike Hall came roaring back. New episodes appeared. The man who lost everything somehow found a way to rebuild it all. Was it luck, fate, or pure determination? This is the unbelievable truth behind the comeback that nobody saw coming. Mike was born on February 4, 1958 in St. Boniface, a small neighborhood in Winnipeg, Manitoba. When he was still a young boy, his father took a job with the Canadian Pacific Railway, and the family moved west to Kamloops, British Columbia. The open spaces of interior British Columbia shaped him forever. Out there, surrounded by rolling hills and quiet back roads, he discovered his lifelong obsession: cars. Not new ones, not shiny ones, but the forgotten relics left to rot behind barns and in overgrown fields. While other kids saved money for bicycles or records, young Mike spent his weekends dragging home dead cars that nobody else wanted. He didn't see junk. He saw potential. A rusted-out coupe wasn't garbage to him. It was a challenge waiting to be conquered. By the time he reached his 20s, Mike Hall had already gathered dozens of vintage vehicles. He hadn't gone to trade school or earned a mechanic's certificate. Instead, he learned everything through trial, error, and sheer stubbornness. He taught himself how to rebuild engines, shape metal, and bring a car back from the dead. Each broken-down machine was a new lesson, and every sleepless night in a freezing shed turned him into a craftsman. This wasn't education, it was survival. Long before fame ever came near him, Mike was already a man defined by busted knuckles and relentless determination. Before cars defined his fame, Mike Hall risked his life as a blaster in the 1980s with his company, Chimera Springs Rock Works. Dangling from cliffs and detonating explosives across British Columbia, he earned the nickname Rasta Blasta. Though the blasting business paid well, every cent fueled his lifelong obsession, collecting and restoring classic cars. By the 2000s, Mike Hall's property looked less like a home and more like a monument to rust. He owned more than 400 vehicles scattered across his land. Muscle cars, pickup trucks, and rare classics buried in grass and weeds. He used to laugh and say, "I don't collect cars, I collect rust." That's how the name Rust Bros was born. The people who worked beside him weren't just employees, they were family, united by a shared mission to save cars that others had given up on. To Mike, every rusted-out frame still had a heartbeat, and rescuing it was his duty, away from the chaos. Mike Hall lived quietly on a farm in the Shuswap region of British Columbia, with his wife and their son, Connor Charman Hall. The farm was peaceful, but Mike himself never slowed down. His obsession with cars caused more than a few disagreements at home, until his wife laid down one rule: no more junk cars on the property. Rather than fight it, Mike simply bought another lot, 5 acres in Tappan, near Shuswap Lake, just off the Trans-Canada Highway. That place became legendary. To outsiders, it was a junkyard. To Mike, it was paradise. A sea of vintage vehicles stretching to the horizon, each one whispering a story. By day, he was a rock blaster. By night, he was a mad scientist, working alone beneath the stars to breathe life into forgotten metal. Fate stepped in one day in 2016. A massive rock slide blocked a highway in the mountains, and crews called in Mike Hall to handle the explosives. Coincidentally, Discovery Channel was filming a show called Highway Through Hell nearby. The crew watched as Mike scaled the cliffs, set his charges, and blasted through the mountain with fearless precision. They filmed him for just a few minutes, but that was enough. Viewers across Canada saw the segment and couldn't forget the dreadlocked dynamite expert with the big grin and the bigger personality. The legend of the Rasta Blasta had just begun. By 2016, Mike Hall's property had become more than a car collection. It was an empire of rust. Hundreds of vehicles covered every inch of land. each one a memory, a story, a dream waiting for revival. But it had become too much. The space was full, the money was running out, and time was no longer on his side. So, he made a decision that shocked everyone. He put it all up for sale. Every car, every bolt, every acre of land, listed together for 119 million. People laughed. They called it a junkyard, not a treasure. But Mike Hall didn't back down. Instead, he raised the price to $145 million. That bold move changed everything. Within days, the story went viral. News outlets across Canada featured the eccentric man selling hundreds of rusted cars at a premium. Photos of his field of dreams flooded social media, and that's when opportunity knocked. Canadian TV producer Tyson Hepburn, who had met Mike years earlier while filming Highway Through Hell, saw the headlines and recognized something special. A story about passion, persistence, and redemption. Together, they created a show that would transform a quiet mechanic into an international sensation. In 2018, filming began for Rust Valley Restorers. The series introduced the world to Mike Hall, his loyal friend Avery Schoaf, and his son Connor Hall. Avery, the muscle car MacGyver, brought strength and humor, while Connor, the calm and logical one, kept his father grounded. Alongside them were Cassidy McCon and Sarah Ward, completing a small but unstoppable crew. When Rust Valley Restorers premiered on History Channel Canada in December 2018, audiences instantly connected. There were no fake storylines or manufactured drama, just real people chasing impossible dreams. And at the heart of it all was Mike Hall, the man who turned rust into gold. By 2020, however, the dream began to weigh heavily on him. Rust Bros Restorations had become a financial burden. There were no corporate sponsors or investors, just Mike's savings, draining fast. Then came legal trouble. The land his shop sat on was zoned for farming, not business. For years, officials ignored it. But in 2021, as he expanded his workshop, they intervened. Despite overwhelming community support, the Agricultural Land Commission denied his exemption in 2023, making Rust Bros illegal on paper. Then wildfires swept through British Columbia, threatening to destroy his yard filled with hundreds of old cars. Exhausted and under pressure, Mike Hall made the hardest decision of his life: to sell. On October 2, 2021, more than 500 cars went under the hammer. 40 years of my life gone in one day, he said. It was painful, but freeing. The end of an era and the beginning of peace. Fans assumed the show had reached its end. The final scenes of the auction aired in 2022, and it felt like a goodbye. But Mike Hall wasn't finished. Even after selling everything, cars started finding him again. People called with offers, donations, and pleas to save one more vehicle. They just find me, he joked. By 2023, he had nearly 200 cars once more. History Channel noticed, and Rust Valley Restorers returned for a 5th season in 2024. This time, the show focused on rebuilding rather than expanding. Viewers watched as Mike, Avery, and Connor worked on a 1968 Shelby GT350 Mustang and a 1941 Diamond T, both symbols of Mike's enduring spirit. Off-screen, Mike Hall began a new chapter as a brand ambassador for eBay Motors Canada, teaching people how to source rare parts and sharing wisdom from a lifetime in the trade. Without the burden of his massive yard, he found peace again. He still attended car shows across British Columbia, where fans saw him not as a reality star, but as a mentor, proof that passion matters more than profit. Today, in his late 60s, Mike Hall still lives in the shoe swap with his wife, his faithful dog Minnie, and his son Connor, who remains by his side. The sprawling rust-covered empire is gone, replaced by a smaller, smarter workshop. But the heart of Rust Valley still beats strong. For thousands of fans, he has become something more than a mechanic. He's a symbol of resilience, authenticity, and the power of following your heart, no matter where it leads. Rust Valley isn't just a show. It's a symbol of hope, heart, and second chances. Mike Hall proved that passion never rusts and dreams never die. No matter how many times life knocks you down, he's still that kid from Kamloops, still chasing stories hidden in steel. So if this journey inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories of grit, glory, and the people who refuse to quit, even when the rust sets in. Thanks for watching.